You could feel the anger tonight at a Board of Trustees meeting in Thornton Township. The board and citizens looking for accountability to their finances, while the township supervisor...
Good evening. An illegal appointment. That's what the trustees I talked to are calling this. They say the news took them by surprise, and now they're talking to legal counsel to figure out their next step.
Oh, honey, you thought being a small-town mayor was all about kissing babies and cutting ribbons. Think again. Tiffany Henyard has turned the quiet village of Dolton into her personal playground, and now it looks like the party's coming to an end. Word on the street is that Henyard's trying to cut a deal with the FBI faster than you can say plea bargain. That's right, folks. The woman who once called herself untouchable is now scrambling to save her own skin. But here's the kicker. She might be ready to throw everyone under the bus to do it. Now, how did we get here? Let me break it down for you. Dolton, Illinois, a tiny village of just over 20,000 people, somehow found itself at the center of a storm involving corruption, mismanagement, and more betrayals than a soap opera. Henyard rode into office on a white horse, promising to clean up the village. But as it turns out, the only thing she was cleaning was the village's bank account.
For a year now, we've been reporting on questionable spending by a South suburban politician named Tiffany Henyard. But we only knew half the story.
Y'all, the tea is piping hot. Sources close to the situation are whispering that Henyard's been quietly negotiating with the feds. She's trying to strike a deal faster than a Black Friday shopper at Walmart. And get this, she might be ready to sell out her allies. That's right, the very people who helped her build her empire, who stood by her side through thick and thin, are now looking over their shoulders wondering if they're next on the chopping block. But let's rewind a bit. Henyard's rise to power wasn't a solo act. She had a whole cast of characters working behind the scenes. It was like Ocean's 11, but instead of robbing a casino, they were robbing the taxpayers blind. Take Keith Freeman, for example. This guy was once Henyard's right-hand man, her trusted advisor in both Dolton and Thornton Township. Together, they ran the village with an iron grip. Freeman was the registered agent of Henyard's controversial charity and helped her maintain control over Dolton's finances. But honey, you know what they say about honor among thieves.
Well, Mr. Lacey is absolutely not guilty of all 9 counts. I believe he's cooperating. And if you cooperate, you have to admit your guilt first.
Just when you thought things couldn't get messier, Freeman gets hit with federal charges for bankruptcy fraud. And faster than you can say, "You're fired," Henyard tried to cut him loose. She even attempted to fire him at a village board meeting, but the trustees weren't having it. Talk about a plot twist. But here's where it gets really juicy. Rumors are flying that Freeman might be singing like a canary to the feds. If that's true, Henyard might be in more hot water than a lobster at a seafood restaurant.
One way that the government always does it is to go and investigate people around her, and that's what they're doing.
And let's not forget about L. Lacey, the former deputy police chief of Dolton. This guy was no stranger to controversy either. He was charged with bankruptcy fraud just like Freeman, but did that stop Henyard from reappointing him to lead the police department? Of course not. She defied the village trustees and put him right back in charge. It was like watching a game of political Russian roulette.
You know, wrong is wrong, and there's a time to hold people responsible and accountable for their actions.
Now Lacey's caught in the crosshairs of the federal investigation too. There are whispers that he might be another pawn in Henyard's game of survival. His name has been linked to some seriously questionable overtime payouts. We're talking over $200,000 in overtime pay, despite not being eligible for that money. It's like winning the lottery, except the ticket was paid for by the taxpayers. But the drama doesn't stop there, folks. Let me introduce you to Carmen Carlile, Henyard's former assistant turned trustee. This lady was once considered a loyal supporter of the super mayor, but now she's turned on Henyard faster than milk left out in the sun. Carlile is accusing Henyard of unethical behavior and predatory practices. She claims that Henyard used her position to manipulate employees and vendors, funneling taxpayer money into her personal projects and luxury expenses. It's like The Wolf of Wall Street, but set in a small Illinois village.
Who would make a one-day purchase of over $40,000 to Amazon? And the main thing is, what is it?
Y'all, the numbers don't lie, and they're painting a picture uglier than a mud fence. The village's general fund balance went from a surplus of over $5 million in 2022 to a deficit of nearly $4 million by 2024. That's a financial nosedive steeper than a skydiver without a parachute. And get this, former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was brought in to investigate Henyard's financial dealings. What she found would make your hair stand on end. Police costs had skyrocketed during Henyard's time in office, with some officers making more in overtime than their base salaries. One officer made over $100,000 in overtime pay in a single fiscal year, more than double his salary.
We needed those officers to be on the street fighting crime. And instead, we have several officers that are riding around protecting.
But here's where it gets really interesting, folks. As the feds dig deeper into Henyard's finances, some are wondering if this whole mess is going to take down more than just the mayor. With so many of her allies already facing legal trouble, it's becoming clear that this isn't just about one person. This is about a network of individuals who've worked together to enrich themselves at the expense of the village. And now, word on the street is that Henyard is ready to point the finger at each and every one of them if it means she can walk away without serving time. It's like watching a game of musical chairs, but when the music stops, someone's going to jail.
I am about to address some things as the supervisor. There will be no comments, there will be anything, it'll just be me addressing you guys to tell you what's going on.
The tension between Henyard and the village board has reached a boiling point hotter than a Texas summer. At a recent board meeting, village trustees voted to block Henyard from using credit cards for unapproved purchases. They've also placed restrictions on how much money can be spent on special events. It's like they're trying to put a child lock on the village's piggy bank. But Henyard isn't backing down. She's vetoed multiple board decisions and continues to push forward with her own agenda, even as the investigation tightens around her like a python squeezing its prey.
By the Lansing Journal, trustee Chris Gonzalez said,
"Or the administration can adhere to some financial limits. We're not looking to necessarily..."
As the rumors of Henyard's potential deal with the FBI swirl, the question on everyone's mind is, who's going to take the fall with her? If she does decide to sell out her allies, it could mean the end of their careers and possibly their freedom. Will Freeman, Lacey, and Carlile be dragged down with her, or will they too cut their own deals to avoid prison time? The clock is ticking, and as more details emerge about Henyard's secret negotiations, it's clear that this story is far from over. But let's take a step back and look at how Tiffany Henyard ended up in this mess in the first place. The story of her downfall didn't happen overnight, though it sure feels like it's spiraling out of control now. Henyard's time in office has been marked by scandal after scandal, but nothing compares to the level of corruption and chaos she unleashed on the village of Dolton. Her so-called super mayor image was built on promises of cleaning up the town, yet it didn't take long before people started to realize that Henyard wasn't cleaning up the village. She was cleaning out the village's bank accounts. Residents who once believed in her vision of a better Dolton are now watching their town crumble, both financially and morally. It's no wonder Henyard has earned herself the nickname Dolton Dictator.
That's right, John and Terrence. Tonight's meeting had a much different tone than what we've experienced previously at Dalton City Council meetings. Now, the room was full of Henyard supporters, and they wanted me to be sure to tell you that they applauded for her several times as she talked about the township being in a great place financially. Thornton Township Supervisor Tiffany Henyard.
Let's start with the basics. Misuse of funds. This is where Henyard's troubles began to snowball. She wasn't just careless with Dolton's finances, she was reckless. From the moment she took office, she treated the village's budget like her personal credit card, shelling out thousands of dollars on lavish trips, high-end restaurants, and luxury hotels. Remember that trip to Austin, Texas? It wasn't just a quick getaway. Henyard and her entourage spent more than $20,000 on a 5-day stay, with over $11,000 spent at the upscale Fairmont Austin Hotel. That's just one trip. Similar indulgences were reported on other taxpayer-funded excursions to New York, Atlanta, and Portland. The village trustees tried to get a handle on the spending spree, but Henyard wasn't having it. She vetoed their attempts to investigate her spending, all while racking up over $67,000 in travel expenses in just a 5-month span.
This administration is shameful. Y'all are a disgrace.
We're watching the fall of this administration.
And it wasn't just the travel, folks. There was the $33,000 she blew on Amazon in a single day. Let that sink in for a second. $33,000 on Amazon. And to make matters worse, there are no clear records explaining what that money was spent on. It's like she was playing supermarket sweep with the village's credit card.
Staffers also distributed a breakdown of the township's finances from 2017 to current, where Henyard's team says years ago they were in a deficit of more than $2 million. And now, today, under her administration, her team says there's a surplus of more than $6 million.
What's even more alarming is how Henyard's administration handled overtime pay for the police department. Under her watch, 2 officers were making more in overtime than than their base salaries, with one officer receiving over $100,000 in overtime pay alone. And remember, this is a village with a population of just over 20,000 people. What could possibly justify this kind of spending?
They'll turn up more and more information. They'll turn up more leads. They may turn up more witnesses. They may find a cooperator. They may find an informant, all which will benefit the investigation tremendously.
But based on what we know now, if you're Tiffany Henyard, how are you feeling?
I would be nervous.
But the financial mismanagement is only part of the story. Henyard's behavior throughout her time in office has been nothing short of outrageous. From the very beginning, it became clear that she wasn't playing by the rules. In fact, she was making her own. Henyard has been accused of using her power to intimidate and retaliate against her opponents, silencing critics and consolidating control over Dalton and Thornton Township. One of the most notorious examples of her bullying tactics was when she ordered her personal police detail to follow residents who dared to speak out against her. This personal security force, funded by the very taxpayers she was bleeding dry, became an extension of her power.
I do not handle anything as relates to with credit cards. As you heard me speak today in my board meeting about, I do not handle that.
Some of those charges are for you, though.
No, sir.
You didn't go to Las Vegas? What is that?
No comment.
The former Dalton police chief, Robert Collins, even spoke out about how Henyard's constant demand for a large security detail crippled the department's ability to fight crime. Instead of having officers on the streets, they were following Henyard around, acting as her personal bodyguards. "We needed those officers to be on the street fighting crime," Collins said, but instead they were riding around protecting the mayor.
Gardner says he's been harassed and his business raided and shut down by Dalton police. He believes because he refused to make a donation to a civic event sponsored by Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard.
And I talked to a couple of agents and I explained them what was going on. I gave them all my paperwork.
Henyard's heavy-handed approach didn't stop there. She also found ways to retaliate against her political enemies. Take the case of Valeria Stubbs, a former trustee and vocal critic of Henyard. Stubbs' home was shot up in the middle of the night, and though no one was harmed, Stubbs has repeatedly suggested that the attack was an act of intimidation orchestrated by Henyard.
Been reporting for nearly 2 years on allegations of corruption surrounding Henyard in her capacity as Dalton mayor and Thornton Township supervisor. And now we've learned from multiple sources that federal agents are in fact interviewing witnesses as part of a possible investigation that may or may not result in charges.
Now, with the FBI breathing down her neck, Henyard's empire is crumbling. The federal subpoenas served to Dalton and Thornton Township are a clear indication that the feds aren't just sniffing around, they're closing in. These subpoenas are reportedly seeking records on everything from the village's finances to Henyard's political fund and even her cancer charity, which, by the way, has come under scrutiny for its own shady dealing.
Offered to our seniors, and they told us, your card doesn't work.
And I stand in the fight because I want the boys and girls of the next generation to see what it looks like to come out of controversy and to come out of all the hatred unscathed. At the end of the day, God gives the test to his strongest soldiers.
Ah yes, the Tiffany Henyard Cares Foundation. The foundation was supposed to be a charitable effort aimed at helping cancer patients. But like everything else tied to Henyard, it's shrouded in controversy. Not only has the foundation failed to file the required financial disclosures with the state, but it also received a $10,000 donation from Thornton Township on the very day it was chartered. Talk about suspicious timing.
All I can tell you is that I'm not the one on anything. That's the only thing I can tell you right now. So I'm just trying to answer to the.
So you're saying there's a foundation that's not registered, but it has nothing to do with you?
Correct. That's true.
Okay.
That's
so you're not aware of any of the work that they've done, money that they've raised, anything along those lines?
Correct.
As Henyard's legal troubles continue to mount, it's becoming increasingly clear that her time is running out. The rumors of her deal with the FBI seem more plausible with each passing day, especially considering how much she stands to lose if convicted of the charges she's facing. Henyard could be looking at serious prison time, which is why many believe she's ready to cut her losses and turn on her allies.
Very appreciative to receive the information today. We have the best mayor ever. I've been here since 1993. And she's the best we ever had.
You know, you're doing a lot of programs, good programs for the, the senior citizens, and you're doing a lot of programs for, people who are on a fixed budget. But what about the people, the blue-collar people who are still carrying this, this time?
But will her deal be enough to save her? And more importantly, what will it mean for the rest of her inner circle? It's hard to imagine that Henyard will walk away from this without taking down a few people with her. There's already speculation that Keith Freeman, her former right-hand man, has been cooperating with the feds for months. If that's true, Henyard might not have as much leverage as she thinks.
Y'all thought that I was young, dumb, didn't know nothing, was gonna let y'all come and manipulate me. I didn't do any of that. So because I didn't do any of that, you guys started this whole smear campaign.
As the investigation unfolds, it's clear that this isn't just about Tiffany Henyard anymore. It's about a web of corruption that has engulfed an entire village, leaving its residents bankrupt and disillusioned. The people of Dolton trusted Henyard to lead them, but instead she led them into financial ruin.
We reached out to the FBI, which said it is policy for the agency not to comment on the nature, existence, or non-existence of any investigation that may be occurring. A public relations firm responded on behalf of the mayor, saying neither Henyard or the village of Dolton have received any subpoenas or been contacted by the FBI or any other law enforcement agency.
Now, as the FBI closes in, the question remains, how many more secrets will come to light before this saga is over? And while the rumors of Henyard's secret deal continue to swirl, there's one thing we know for sure. This isn't the last we've heard of Dolton's super mayor. Whether she cuts a deal or goes down fighting, one thing is certain. Tiffany Henyard's reign is coming to an end, and she won't be walking away unscathed. The only question left is, who will be the next to fall? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates on this ongoing saga. This is Hot Gossip, signing off from the wildest small-town scandal you've ever seen. Goodbye.